my next guest in the fight against corrupt government. He is special forces. There is no question about it. He is somebody that has written some of the best books exposing government corruption, and he works for an incredible organization. He is the director of research at the Government Accountability Institute. He's the author of Controligarchs, Exposing the Billionaire Class, the Secret Deals, and the Globalist Plot to Dominate Your Life, which, by the way, is just the latest in a series of books. One is better than the next. It is always a pleasure to have him on. Seamus, how are you?
Shaun, such a pleasure to be with you.
Well, listen, I've been a fan of yours for years, and I did not realize that you have been collaborating with Peter Schweizer since 2011. That's a long time, babe, but you caught the height of it, didn't you?
Oh, man, it has been great. Peter Schweizer is a national treasure. He taught me everything I know. All of the best investigations I worked on came from his brilliance.
Well, one of the things I love about how obvious the corruption is, and I say it, and my audience is probably nauseous of me saying it, but I don't care. The fact that 85% of the national debt has been added since Barack Obama was late on his car payment as an Illinois state senator is follow the money. It's always about the money. And this has been a windfall. If you are a nefarious scumbag in this country or abroad, you have been loving the bankruptcy of our nation, haven't you?
Absolutely.
So when you investigate this Zohran Mamdani, who really reminds me quite a bit of Barack Obama, after all, he's completely unaccomplished from a very sketchy background. Aside from that, all he does is tell you tales of utopia without any achievements whatsoever. And now we find out his father hates the country. He's tied to a lot of nefarious money as well. Isn't that true?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I love the Obama comparison. It's exactly right. Total radical, wants to fundamentally transform the country. And when a candidate claims to, when they decry the existence of billionaires, as Obama did, as Bernie Sanders does in AOC, and as Zohran Mamdani does, you'd expect that candidate, the anti-billionaire candidate, to rise on grassroots power. But what we're seeing with Mamdani, just like we did with Obama and so many others, is that it's the opposite. He has a billionaire-funded infrastructure, a lot of foreign sketchy money coming in, and that's what's moving him ahead.
So I have, thanks to your books and Peter Schweizer books, I have always been fascinated with the culture of corruption Americans are willing to accept and tolerate. But when you look at the nefarious actors in the Middle East, when you look at the nefarious actors around the world and in Europe, they all trace back to me to a commingling and a cooperation with cartels. And all of it seems to be made possible by the foreign policy relationship of China. I really do believe this is a culmination of people who want to take down the country built on the individual rights of the citizen versus the government. And that's really out of the closet now with Mamdani. This is what he's preaching. He is preaching a 19th century communism, Marxism, and socialism. And I'm curious to know, he's clearly going to win. Are the decent people of New York going to tolerate it, or are they going to do the only civilized option and leave?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are going to leave. That is for sure. A lot of decent people. But in some senses, I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, the fact that it's Mamdani versus Andrew Cuomo, who is only marginally better. You get what you vote for. I don't say that callously, but it's like, wake up, New York.
Well, I would even say he's worse. Mamdani didn't kill tens of thousands of New Yorkers. Cuomo did.
That's right.
And you look at the legacy of failure and corruption in the Cuomo family. This is the other thing. It's really astonishing. It reminds me of the people who used to long for the Daley years in Chicago. You like your corruption and stealing just at a level you think is affordable. That's really what we're facing. We're facing a collapse of character, and these are what your books constantly expose, but it always traces back to the same players abroad and here. Are you seeing that again with Mamdani, or has he managed to do something which I would enjoy? Has he made the scum in this country, the billionaire class, has he made them nervous?
Not at least when we're talking about George Soros, who always seems to back the most radical candidates. I mean, we're seeing huge sums of money, tens of millions from the Soros Open Society Network into radical left-wing organizations backing Mamdani's mayoral effort. the entire Soros network has deployed huge sums towards the Mamdani campaign, helping, groups helping the Mamdani campaign. So you've got George Soros, then you've got this foreign billionaire. I believe we've talked about him before, Neville Roy Singham. The guys from Singham, who has been sowing unrest and chaos in this country since BLM, probably before, but he backs every pro-Hamas, every anti-ICE rally through his dozens of networks that he funds. There are strikingly close ties. I mean, you've got Singham's niece, Alicia Singham Goodwin, who is running this Jews for Zohran group. It's seems oxymoronic in a way, but that she's backing him. Of course, her mother, her parents have funded his campaign, and so that's just two. You got Soros and Neville Roy Singham who are propelling Mamdani forward. That should be enough, but there's many more.
You remember when Obama and that Tony Roscoe link and the corruption in the Middle East traced back to the Iraqi billionaire Nadmi Arouchi, and he was caught up in that French oil company scandal, $530 million, where they got caught with more financial crimes, where the French government was backing him to buy the oil company with kickbacks and schemes. And he went away for a little while, but he came out. And he was directly tied to Saddam Hussein, that led right into Chicago, Tony Roscoe and the rest of it. It was a story that was it was out for a while. And I want to say I read that in a Schweizer book. But that infrastructure of Middle East corruption into American Democrat areas, that's always there. Have you uncovered anything outside of the fraud of Soros? Because he doesn't really give his money. He just runs a front of NGOs, and it's really tax dollars that show up in it. Are you seeing any more nefarious links directly to Middle East scallywags and Hamas sympathizers?
Absolutely. I mean, and Mamdani doesn't even try to hide from it. I mean, he's got this best buddy, Siraj Wahhaj, who was one of the unindicted co-conspirators from the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. This is not a good guy. He was we broke some of this news. The New York Post broke some of this news just a month or so ago, and it was about a week ago that Mamdani is posting photos that he's still hanging out with the guy. So that's one. I mean, he's a total radical Islamic cleric. You've got several pro-Hamas and pro-Hezbollah mouthpieces that are based in the Middle East newspapers that are tracking a mayor from New York's rise and writing very favorably about it. You've got the Qatari money coming into Mamdani's mother's film business, over $5 million from Qatari money that goes to the mother. On and on. His father, Mamdani's father, is this professor who has said that suicide bombers are just another combatant type. They shouldn't be denounced. Basically, he's an apologist for suicide bombers. So the connections to radical Islamic terror-adjacent entities. We found some really interesting stuff, by the way, on the Council for American Islamic Relations, CARE, which is a perennial, seems connected to terror. FBI investigates every other year, it seems, funding to the Mamdani campaign through a couple of super PACs. So, yes, the connections are just deep and wide.
Seamus, now, before you joined Peter Schweizer's group, before you did that, do you remember the Bush years after September 11th, how CARE was in the news weekly, and they had multiple links to different front groups? There were investigations, and immediately upon Obama sworn in, nothing. You heard crickets for 8 years. So that network has really built up some strength and more nuanced ways to hide the money. And I'm curious to know something, because you also have been exposing the financial backing of the Marxist foot soldier called Antifa. And that's who these groups all seem to be represented by. Antifa is a crucially important disruptor to the tranquility of our nation. Are you seeing any links between Antifa and Mamdani?
Yeah, well, they're both Marxist groups. The connections are diffuse. It's, Antifa is actually pretty sophisticated at hiding its total connections. But all of the people in what we call the protest industrial complex, Riot Inc., which includes so many more organizations beyond Antifa, are all Mamdani, they're pro-Mamdani types. They support the pro-Hamas demonstrations in New York. They're out there in full force. So there is a very bizarre but it's growing, obvious to almost everyone. It's been obvious for 10 years or more, really since back when you said, Obama covered up the CARE stuff, but it's becoming just too glaring to ignore. This Marxist radical Islamic alliance that is going on, that is also, it's got CCP funding, CCP backing, the people like Neville Roy Singham, who are both Marxist and pro-radical Islam. Disconcerting to say the least. And just on the CARE point, the Congress is now investigating them. So
good.
There was both Senator Tom Cotton and Representative Elise Stefanik have urged the Trump administration and the Treasury Department in particular to look at CARE's funding streams, freeze or seize wherever illegal activity may be going on. And you're so right. I mean, we've been digging in on CARE for over a year now. Dozens and dozens of little offshoots and front organizations. It is difficult to follow the money when you're just a humble organization like ours, but we're tracking it.
Yeah, I understand, but it's difficult for the Wolverine to be the baddest son of a gun in the jungle. But he is. So you can do it. I'm reflecting on control oligarchs. And when you think about so many of the people you had mentioned, from Klaus Schwab, who still astonishes me, the son of the flamethrower for the Third Reich, with the German accent, the Bond villain. He's right out of the movie Spectre. And you see him caught stealing money. And the real shock to me was that he was heterosexual as he was hitting on the girl that worked for him and bought her a chalet. That scandal went quiet. Are you surprised how willing people are to have hundreds of millions of dollars evaporate from the World Economic Forum and nobody mentions Herr Klaus Schwab?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. It's kind of par for the course. I mean, all of these guys are gangsters. They're just wearing suits and in charge of, Fortune 500 companies. But, you saw year after year the amount of prostitution and just total degeneracy going on in Davos. It's a disgusting cesspool. The fact that Klaus Schwab was leading it is not a surprise. And the fact that they're covering it up, hoping it'll go away, and then putting in a guy like Larry Fink, the head of BlackRock, as his successor. None of it is shocking, but it is revolting.
So is that the fact? Larry Fink is the successor to the World Economic Forum?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, there goes the heterosexual certainty. I want to ask you, too, about Bill Gates' big reversal on the climate, I call it eco-Nazism, but the climate agenda. All of a sudden, it's not that big of a deal. Are you enjoying that as much as I am to say, well, where are the trillions now, you nerd?
Yeah, no, I mean, we saw whispers. I mean, ever since he donated to the inaugural campaign, he's been trying to cozy up to Trump since the day Trump won re-election. He's got a lot of legal liabilities. I mean, you just saw some big news come out about how much money he's been funneling to CCP front groups. I report in Control Oligarchs on how deep Bill Gates' ties are to the Chinese Communist Party. He's been helping them use Microsoft backdoors to round up dissidents and journalists since the 90s. So pro-CCP, total climate scam. The fact that people are going to I hope they don't, but that, people are going to shrug because we got so much big news popping off all the time. We've seen a couple. I would say it's a victory. I mean, it's not a great victory, but it's, the fact that he's finally admitting it. We're never going to go back to the climate change hysteria. Some people like Greta Thunberg are still going to cling on for as long as they can. I'm sure Al Gore will probably try to cling on till the bitter end, but Bill Gates, in June, his foundation announced it would not be funding the Arabella network, which is the beating heart of the Democrats' dark money machine. He's cutting funding. He had given $300 million. That's a lot of ballots harvested. That's a lot of climate hysteria and riots and all the rest. So he's definitely taking some steps back. I think it's cynical. I don't think he's actually had any change of heart. He just knows that he's got a lot of legal liabilities. Potentially, and so he's trying to make nice with the Trump administration. We'll see how it goes.
Right, because he doesn't want to get crushed. I'm wondering, because we've all talked about this, we're all aware of the Epstein connection. And what's fascinating to me about this Epstein situation is how Les Wexner has been able to circumvent even a deposition. Are you amazed? Here's a scoundrel who's the reason you even know Epstein's name. The story is he met him at some venue or on an airplane, and he gives him control of his billions of dollars. He has power of attorney. And you look at this Les Wexner, and you look at Epstein, and you look at how Epstein changed the will 3 days before he did the CIA suicide. You look at that, And we don't know who the beneficiary is of the will. But more importantly, you look at that money, that seed money that will was invested in, and Les Wexner. They're the seed money for Palantir. They're the seed money for all of these control oligarchs, for all of these servers, for all of these cyber companies that are now in control of everything from currency to data. That should be really pulled apart, don't you think?
Wexner is absolutely, unindicted. He I won't say unindicted co-conspirator, but he's definitely up to his eyeballs in the Epstein operation. Another guy that Epstein was managing money for, who just apparently turned over his entire portfolio or a huge chunk of it, Leon Black of Apollo Global Management. This is like one of the biggest Wall Street bankers out there. And then I put in control oligarchs, the whole Bill Gates connection to Epstein runs through JPMorgan. And when people talk about a client list, I dug through a bunch of court documents that didn't get a lot of press. The victims, as well as the Virgin Islands, who housed his, the pedophile island, they sued JPMorgan, his bank, Epstein's bank. Yeah. And they found JPMorgan paid a combined settlement of $365 million to avoid going to trial. And it's because one of their guys, his name was James Staley. He was the relationship manager for Epstein. He's the one who introduced Bill Gates to Epstein. There's a lot of disgusting emails between James Staley and Epstein talking about Disney characters and really creepy stuff. You don't want to read it. But anyway, James Staley's avoided a lot of scrutiny on this. He was at J.P. Morgan. So when people want the Epstein client list, it's already there. It's in the form of follow the money ledger totals, because J.P. Morgan admitted that they had facilitated. They didn't go to trial, but they basically acknowledged to the Treasury Department that they believe they facilitated at least $1 billion in, quote, human trafficking, end quote, transactions. So J.P. Morgan's escaped scrutiny and accountability for too long.
And Leon Black, that might be my favorite excuse ever. They say he gave him $280 million for tax consultant. Jeffrey Epstein dropped out. He's a dropout. Dropped out of college. He didn't graduate college. And when you look at this, and you look at the systemic corruption to Bill Barr and the creepy father that he had, what a scumbag he was, and he hires him to be a teacher with no credentials, a math teacher, this is truly the string that must be pulled until the whole thing falls apart. My concern is they always undermine everybody, right? So they got a Trump connection. There is a Trump connection. Everybody ignores the very thin story at Mar-a-Lago where he throws them out, and they don't talk about why. The girl that he threw him out for was the girl that allegedly, the one that died, that was in Australia. Her name is Giuffre, right?
Yeah, that's right. Virginia Giuffre had probably the most compelling testimony. She said she wasn't suicidal. Her parents don't think she's suicidal.
Well,
she got in a car wreck prior to, under suspicious circumstances, and she conveniently is no longer with us.
So she's the reason that Trump throws him up, because she was working at Mar-a-Lago as her father did for decades. Nobody talks about this. So Donald catches wind of it, throws him out, says leave the girl alone, and that's the girl that says at Zorro Ranch, the other property in New Mexico, where she was shooting Tom Pritzker, which is a terrible feat on many levels. But it's amazing the families, the control oligarchs, as you say, the legacy corrupt families that are all tied to this scoundrel who is the seed money for right now, who has all the data of the world. Isn't that sickening?
It's completely sick, and we can't say for certain, but we have a good idea of the clients. And you mentioned Pritzker. You also mentioned you mentioned Arizona. Or New Mexico? What is it? Bill Richardson.
Yeah,
there was a bunch of other names that had allegations against them, and it's just insane. This is why people are never going to let the Epstein issue go. That he and Ghislaine Maxwell were arrested, convicted, put into jail for trafficking victims to nobody. Like where are the clients? Make one of them, at least one. I mean, we'd like all of them pay the price for this sickening operation.
Well, it's funny that dollar bill, that rat bastard from New Mexico, how many scandals he circumvented. He finally died. I wondered if you could find out if they screwed him into the ground, that crooked bastard. But would you let me know if you have any other stories that you're breaking?
Oh, absolutely. We got some really big stuff. We'll make sure you're the first to know. It's great to talk to you, Shaun.
Oh, I love talking to you. And where's the best place for everybody to keep an eye on arguably one of the greatest organizations out there that you and Peter Schweizer have created, the Government Accountability Institute? Where's the best way to keep an eye on you?
Yeah, we put all of our receipts, all of our investigations on thedrilldown.com, thedrilldown.com. He's at Peter Schweizer on all platforms. He posts to Twitter. I'm at Seamus Bruner, and Seamus is SeamusBruner. Thank you, Shaun.